you're not gonna believe this. Right where we were on Moody Street at the Boston Manufacturing, that big, large building, this bell was up there. And my new friend, Bill, thank you very much for being on the show Around the Garden with Jimmy Key. Can you tell me a little bit about this bell and everything about what we did as far as making everything from the Charles River?
Sure, I'll be happy to. This bell is actually the second bell that hung on the first building right by the Moody Street Bridge. The first one was cast by Paul Revere in 1813.
This bell here?
This is the second bell.
Really?
The first bell was cast by Paul Revere, and it hung there until the 1850s, and unfortunately it cracked. Paul had passed away by then, but his apprentice Henry Hooper had taken over the foundry, and he cast this bell in 1858, and it hung there until the mill ceased operating.
Now, can I ask you a question? I see a little, what did they use the bell for?
The bell was used to call the mill girls to work in the morning. The mill was staffed by teenage young girls who lived in the neighborhood, and the bell would ring at 4:30 in the morning to wake them up.
Really?
It would ring at 5 o'clock in the morning, so they had to be at work. It would ring for lunch. It would ring at the end of the day. The bell...
And you think you have it hard out there now? So what did they actually manufacture in all these buildings? As I was going down the Charles River, and I started in Cambridge, came to Newton, then went to Watertown, the Charles River, and then I ended up on Moody Street. What did they manufacture in those buildings using the water of the Charles?
Textiles.
Really?
They took raw cotton and bales of raw cotton and transformed it into bolts of finished fabric. This was highly recognized as the first modern factory in the world, meaning that everything happened under one roof. Raw material, in this case cotton, went in one end. Finished product, bolts of fabric, came out the other end. And that's what they made here.
And that's what that replica machine is over there, is how the actual machines were built. And were they heavy, heavy metal? They weren't made out of wood, were they?
In the beginning, they were made out of wood. That's a replica of the looms that they used in the mill in 1814. There were hundreds of them in here, all running at the same time. One woman was responsible for maintaining 2 looms at the same time. They were incredibly loud, noisy, dirty, dusty, but this is how it happened, and this was a real innovation for that time.
So we didn't have headphones, you can, had iPods or whatever you put in your ears, or radios you could plug in. How did the workers just do that work every single day? Were they able to talk to each other, as far as, in the mills there? Can you tell me just a little snitch about maybe how it was back then as a worker?
The workers were in the same space together, but you largely weren't allowed to talk to one another. The supervisors would view that as shirking your responsibility.
We still have those.
Off, okay? But they were in the same space together. The conditions were awful, especially by today's standards. It was about 90 degrees inside with 80 to 85% humidity because cotton dust is flammable, and they had to have that type of humidity in the building to keep a spark from lighting up the dust and starting a fire.
Wow.
So yes, and imagine dressed as the mill girls were in all of that heavy, long skirting and clothing in the Victoria times. Things were dangerous, things were hot, they were uncomfortable, it wasn't a nice life.
Well, Bill, this is really exciting, and I'm getting goosebumps as we're speaking because this is great. So how can people reach out to you, the museum, and donations? I know you're taking donations. This is an amazing thing inside one of the small little mills, just a little small pot. How can they reach out to you?
They can come in to visit the museum. We're open Wednesday through Saturday, 10 to 3 o'clock, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and 10 to 2:30 on Saturday. We'd love to have anyone come and see us. You can check out our website, charlesrivermuseum.org on Google, and you can see all of our activities, our nighttime concert series, our Mill Talk series, You can make donations, you can buy tickets to visit the museum, you can do all kinds of things.
You touched a nerve. Go back on the concert. What exactly is it on the concerts you have here?
Say again?
You have concerts, you said.
Oh yes, in the evening, in the spring and fall, we have a music series called our Second Shift Concert Series. There's about 7 or 8 that take place in the spring and another group that takes place in the fall. Varied artists from around the country, all types of musical genres, super fun, super enjoyable.
And they can follow on Facebook, or how do they know when those concerts are?
You can check our website for dates and upcoming events.
And that's right inside the museum, which is really, really fabulous.
That's correct. All of these concerts and shows take place in the main gallery of the museum.
Wow. Bill, it's great meeting you. There's a lot of history here. Can I just go a little bit more exploring around what's in here? Because this looks like it's really fun.
You sure can. Take a good look.
Thank you so much, Bill.
Thanks for
really
coming
great
in.
meeting you.
Okay, take care.
So this is one of the old buildings that they used to use for a lot of making in the textile business in the early 1800s all the way into the 1900s. Look at the size of this building. How could you harness so much water? So if you look here, this is where it catches it, and look at the power behind the falls. And this is right off of Moody Street in Waltham. Can you imagine the power that generated for all the equipment in that building? Look at the power. It's still there, and it's still very, very powerful. The power of water. So the Bleachery Dam was during the 17th and the 1800s, diverting the water to power mills. The Bleachery Dam was built in the late 1700s by Christopher Gore. The mill was sold in 1809 to the Waltham Cotton and Wool Factory. In 1819, the Boston Manufacturing Company bought the mill, demolished the buildings, and built the bleachery. The bleachery soon became one of the largest bleacheries in the country in 1951. The Waltham Bleachery and Dye Works ceased operations. Today, this is one of the 8 dams in the river maintained by the Metropolitan District Commission, which is now called the DCR. And everyone gets to enjoy it. They got benches out here along the walkway, and even the geese love it on a beautiful, beautiful day. Here is the lower part of the Charles River, past most of the dams in Watertown. The Charles River. It's been here, and it's so much in history. If you look, some of the water that comes out of the streets in another river flows into the Charles River. There's many, many outlets into the Charles River. Here's a perfect sign that tells you fish The Charles River supports a diverse community of fish, including alewife, bass, American eel, Andromenus, and Candoramus. Fish rely on the Charles River for spawning habit during their spring runs. As you see, the town of Watertown has even created part of the nature walk that goes from Boston all the way into Watertown to Waltham, deep into Waltham, and then it goes into other communities. And you get to see the ducks. One thing that's quite amazing here in Watertown is they've created this river walk, but also to follow it, it's also in Braille, because the Perkins School for the Blind is just up the street. It's within walking distance, and you can follow it in Braille here all the way down these ropes. That's an amazing. They've left and they created some native plants all around the Charles River, and they're just about ready to start budding up for the spring season. Here we are in Watertown, and this fall in the dam used to use and make power for this large building that goes all the way to the rotary there in Watertown on Galen Street. And it used to be used in the early 1900s for powering a lot of equipment. And look at it now. It's just natural beauty. And that's where it used to gather the water and fuel the building from machinery. If you hear the power of the dam, it's amazing. That was generating power for all the industries, for the equipment that they used to use. Listen to the power. Look at this. Look what the geese get to see every single day. It's like the beach, but it's on the Charles River in Watertown. Even the ducks. Here's another shot in Watertown. The roaring dam. Could you imagine the power that the water has? And this is a river in Watertown, Mass. Yeah. if you go further upstream, which is this direction, that's going to take us up to Waltham, the Charles River. What a long, long river. But look at the natural beauty. So as you see, many towns have incorporated the Charles River in making it bridges, walkways to go over the Charles River. And this is in Watertown, Mass. But look at the views as you walk across this beautiful bridge. What a trail. Watertown built this for the enjoyment of the public. Works really well with the landscape. You could even walk to work to downtown Boston. Now we're still in Watertown, and here's another little dam, and this used to generate power for this old building here, and obviously they've renovated, and now it's a lab. And this building now is called Riverworks, and it used to generate power by there. Most of the machinery was done by gears, and the water just turned and turned and turned. So we are up in Waltham right now, and we are at the dam where the bleachery used to be. And that was in the early 1700s, in the 1800s. And it was used, and here's the dam that was used to develop power for the mill. There was many dams throughout the whole Charles River that were used for running their equipment. Now they have a plaque here, and I'm going to show it to you soon, but it shows you about the bleachery. Obviously the building's been torn down, or it just fell down, I'm not exactly sure. But they have some beautiful footwalks, trails, the scenery is breathtaking, and this is along the Charles River. Can you hear the power behind the river? Hey, so now I'm still at the bleachery in Waltham, and I just saw two guys getting off of their bicycles, and I ran across Ed. Ed, this is amazing. You told me you came all the way, well, tell me, you came all the way, and you went all the way into downtown Boston, yeah, on the trails, yeah, along the Charles River?
My brother, we've oftentimes come up to the Boston area. We call it urban bike riding. We had a beautiful sunny day like today. We drive all the way up. We go along the Stella Drive in front of Northeastern, up into Boston Common and Public Gardens, up through Beacon Hill, and we cut across over to Cambridge. Had a little lunch over in Cambridge, and it's amazing is that they have this bike path that goes all the way around, loops all the way around. You can even follow it up the Concord. So we've just finished about 4 hours of this, and it's been a great day. It's great to be alive.
And I think a lot of the people in their cars driving along the side of the Charles River take it for granted what they are actually missing on going on a bicycle. Is that true?
That's true. And to be honest with you, sometimes it's, I just retired recently, and I've never had a chance to do this. This is really, you know, it's enjoyable. It's really nice. Okay.
Well, thank you so, Ed.
Okay, Jimmy K, very nice meeting you, buddy.
So if you look along the Charles River in Waltham here, we are at the Lowell Mill, the Francis Cabot Lowell Mill, and these were all used during the Industrial Revolution too. And if you see here, I am where they are still creating and designing dresses and etc. Take a look. Look at this. A whole different era, but they're still creating and designing fabrics right here off of Moody Street in Waltham. She's got it going on. So we are here up on Moody Street in Waltham, and as you see, there's a lot of buildings that used to be used by the water. And as you see, it goes away from the dam and it goes towards Watertown, Newton, in Cambridge. Like I said originally, starts in Hopkinton. It's amazing. So as we stand here now, we are at the birthplace of the American Industrial Revolution. This is where the Boston Manufacturing Company cotton mill was in 1814. It's actually on the National Historic Landmark right now. This original mill was constructed in 1814. And now it's all fully occupied and restored. That's quite a bit of history right there, right on the Charles. So you know, you probably want to know, how did the people get here to go to work at the mills in the 1800s and the 1900s? Well, I'm sure, and I'm positive of that there were steam locomotives that went city to city and all the way into Waltham. You can't make it up. And now the MBTA uses it. Quite amazing. What a people mover, right off the Charles.